Hello and good evening, Chicago. Welcome on into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. I am your host, Adam Karnick. Boy, is it going to be a show tonight. It was Black Monday in the NFL, and the Bears did not leave us wanting for things to talk about. Ryan Pace, general manager, is gone. Head coach Matt Nagy is gone. It's the changes that we were all hoping for and thinking were going to happen. Will it actually affect change for the team, though? That's going to be the next big part, because not everything that we were hoping for from the organization wound up happening. We've still got people like Ted Phillips involved. There's still other things that look and sound and feel very frustratingly familiar with this whole process that they are now about to go on. Lots to go through tonight with that on the show. Plus, we're going to be just very football heavy. You might remember way back in September, I made some predictions on how everything was going to turn out. We're going to go back and review those. Plus, I have some thoughts for the NFL on how to potentially improve overtime and other things going on. And then, of course, we've got to talk about the other sports in Chicago as well. The Bulls and Blackhawks making some news over the weekend. All that and more on Chi-Town Weekly. Buckle on up. It's going to be a show. And once again, welcome on into the program here on IE Sports Radio. You have found your way to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am your host, Adam Karnick. I am so ready for this show tonight. There is a ton to get through with the Bears. Black Monday in the NFL. Again, a quick recap for everybody before we get into the due diligence of the show tonight. A quick recap for everybody that may have somehow missed it. Matt Nagy, gone. Ryan Pace, gone from the organization as of this morning. The Bears have already begun the process of trying to replace their head coach and their general manager. We will see how all that goes, and we have lots to talk about there. But before we get any further, I do want to, of course, give the regular shout-outs to our sponsors. And a quick aside, real quick, I do see we've already got some people in the chat. Just a quick aside, I am using a little bit of new equipment and a little bit of a new setup tonight. I got some new equipment as a late family Christmas present. So if you're having a hard time hearing me or something isn't coming through, please let me know in the chat room, as I'm kind of using some new equipment, giving it all a trial run here tonight. So if something sounds a little different or you're having a hard time hearing me, please do pop into the Spreaker chat and let me know ASAP. Or if you're listening on Twitter Spaces, try and flag me down there and let me know that something's going different and it doesn't quite sound right. Please do let me know. All right, all that said and told, let's dive in. Our sponsors for the week. First of all, the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organizations. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get filmed to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get filmed to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you've been waiting for as an athlete. Find them on Twitter at SoCal Warriors, Instagram at Southern California_Warriors, or Facebook Southern California Warriors. And Background Check International. Businesses, are you looking to background check a new hire on? Let Kit Fremen take care of that for you. Kit founded and has managed Background Check International since 1994, and he's here to help you with the screening process. Contact Kit and let him help make the hiring process that much easier. This business is used for professional background checks and not for the use of crimes, such as identity theft or any other illegal activity. Go to their website, bcint.com. Find them on Facebook, Background Check International -BCI. And then, of course, IE Sports Radio. We are available on all of the major social platforms. Search at IE Sports Radio, whether that's Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. They're all good to the same place. And we are now up to 32 shows here on the network. I cannot believe it. We just keep adding show after show after show. I see that Marcus, one of the newest members of the IE family, the host of our Atlanta show on Sunday afternoons, is in here. Taryn is in the chat. Good evening to both of you gentlemen. Oh, and then I see a familiar last name in the chat room as well. Mama Karnik is in here as well. It seems like my new equipment is working. Thank you guys for the feedback. I really do appreciate that. So, IE Sports Radio, we have been around now for 7.5 years, and we keep growing, keep getting bigger, keep adding new shows. Guys like Marcus adding in a new wrestling show that is debuting later this week. And we want to get even bigger, but we need your help to get there. We are now on Patreon. The easiest way to get there, go to our website, iesportsradio.com. You can check out our Patreon link there. For as little as $5 a month, you can become an IE Sports Radio sponsor, and you get something out of it too. It's not just helping us. We give you shout-outs on all of our shows at MLOS Great and at Bay Area Raised. Thank you for supporting us on Patreon. You can also, for higher tiers, you can get things like IE Sports Radio merchandise and swag, and even all the way up to getting featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment, with Larry B. So thank you so much for continuing to support us here at IE Sports Radio over these last 7.5 years, and continuing to do so. We hope to keep growing and keep getting bigger with your help. All right, Black Monday, the day that traditionally guys get fired in the NFL. We were all hoping that the Bears would be one of those teams that would take place in the annual ritual this year, and all signs pointed to Matt Nagy was going to get fired. I mean, we had the rumor going as far back as Thanksgiving that his time was up. They were ready to move on from the head coach. Everyone expected it to simply be a matter of time that they would be making this move. This morning, they officially cut ties. Adam Schefter tweeted it was a little bit before 8:30 this morning. They made it official. Matt Nagy was on the way out. And then just a little time. And then the bigger question was what would happen with Ryan Pace. Ryan Pace has been the general manager for the last 7 seasons, and he's gotten to be very favorable with the front office, even though the track record has not been there. He'd already hired 2 head coaches. He'd already acquired 2 franchise quarterbacks, plus getting 3 more big swings at the quarterback position in free agency and in trades. In his 7 seasons as being the general manager, no playoff wins, only 1 winning season in those 7 years. Would they actually get rid of Ryan Pace, though? Because apparently ownership is fond of Ryan Pace. What they kept coming back to in ownership was, well, Ryan Pace did such a terrific job in making their practice facilities at Hallis Hall so state-of-the-art and so in par with the rest of the NFL and up-to-date and up-to-code. What a great job he did with some behind-the-scenes things. All right, that's all well and good, but the product on the field was simply not cutting it. You might remember a few weeks ago as we were getting ready for Christmas, I did my Christmas wish list for every team in the city, and for the Bears, my wish was that they would clean house. They got rid of Matt Nagy, step one. They got rid of Ryan Pace, step two, and just released him from his job, released him from his duties. Step two, excellent. Then we got word that George McCaskey, in effect the owner of the team, was going to come forward and have a press conference at 1:00 this afternoon. And then it was released that it's just going to be George McCaskey, that his right-hand man, Ted Phillips, wasn't going to be there. That's exciting. That's encouraging. Ted Phillips has spent the last 20, 30 years doing odd jobs and odd things around the franchise and being involved in the football operations, even though he's not necessarily a football guy himself. He was there for the hiring of Jerry Angelo. He was there for the hiring of Dick Duran, and all those coaches and general managers going forward. Ted Phillips has been there and been a part of this, but now he's not going to be part of this meeting. He's not going to be part of this Zoom call. Perhaps they truly are moving on from everyone. Then George McCaskey sits down, and in his opening statement includes, Ted Phillips is in this Zoom call. He'll be available for questions later too. And immediately, even though it was a Zoom call that was being broadcast over the internet, you could immediately feel the energy drop. Oh, they came so close to doing the clean sweep. And they came one leg short. George did say that Ted Phillips is going to be changing his responsibilities a little bit, that he is primarily going to be focusing on the purchase of the Arlington Heights property and getting that closed and getting that converted and turned into a football stadium, that's going to be his primary responsibility. And that the new general manager will report directly to George McCaskey. All right. Okay, you're not calling it an executive vice president of football operations, but okay. The primary responsibility of a vice president would be to report directly to ownership. All right, you're giving it a different title, but okay, you're doing the right things. But Ted Phillips is going to be part of the committee that will hire the new general manager. And Ted Phillips is going to be part of the committee that's going to hire the new head coach. They came so close to doing the clean sweep that everybody wanted, that everybody was crying out for, but they fell short. In the end, we're going to have the same people that, by their own admission, George went out of his way to point out in this press conference that he's just a fan. He doesn't have any more football knowledge or football expertise than the people watching in the stands or listening on the radio or watching at home on their televisions. But he's going to be the guy making the final decision. on who gets to be the general manager and who gets to be the head coach for the team. They came so close. And yet they blow it again. Now, to be fair, you're not going to convince an owner to sell the team simply because the team's been bad for the last 20 years. Oh, and I see Davidson throwing a question in here into the chat room, wanting to know why are they keeping Ted Phillips? Well, Ted Phillips has been working for the team, and he's been working for the family for over 30 years, close to 40 years now, that he's been the right-hand man of the McCaskey family. And there are aspects of his job that he does very well. There are a lot of business things, business decisions that he does very well that have ultimately been very profitable for the family and for the franchise as a whole. One of them being the acquisition of this property up in Arlington Heights, where they're ultimately planning on building a new stadium for the team to own. Ted was part of that. There have been other things that Ted has been part of on the business side of things that have been very good and very profitable and successful, and ultimately he's been a good lieutenant for the McCaskies. Unfortunately, on the football side of things, he's overmatched. He's outclassed. He's not up to the task of doing the football ops side of things that he's been in charge of. And to be fair, he hasn't been part of the final roster decisions. He hasn't been part of the draft day decisions. But at the same time, the general manager has always reported to Ted Phillips. So he's always had his finger in that pie. I would have loved, I'm going to come back to I'm always going to use the Cubs as kind of the model here, because it's a very easy picture. For a while there, before Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer came in, the general manager for the Cubs is a man by the name of Crane Kenny. Crane Kenny is an excellent businessman. He understands how to operate the sports team as a business and negotiate television rights, negotiate stadium deals and sponsorship opportunities and financial aspects of the club. But when he was having to make baseball decisions, what manager do I hire? What players do we bring in? What equipment do we need for the players to use to make them better? He was out of his depth. Ted Phillips is to the Bears what Crane Kenny was to the Cubs. When Theo Epstein came in and brought along his good friend and talented baseball general manager Jed Hoyer, they went to Crane and they said, look, Crane, you're a good employee. You're a good guy. We want you here with the Cubs, just not in your current role. You're not very good in the baseball side of things. We're going to take the baseball operations away from you so that you can focus where you are good, where you are talented, in the business side of things. That's what I wanted the Bears to do with Ted Phillips. And George McCaskey went right up to that today, saying that Ted is going to focus on Arlington Heights, that they're going to remove the football operations responsibilities from his plate so that he can focus on things that he is good at and is talented at. But then they turned around and they said he's going to help hire the next general manager and he's going to help hire the next head coach. So you're going to wind up with the same problems with two guys that, by their own admission, don't know what they're doing, what they're looking for, are going to be in charge of looking. But, I can hear it already, though. I can hear George in my ear saying, but it's not just me and Ted. We've got this committee, and it's going to be headed by Bill Polian. And Bill Polian was a fantastic general manager for the Indianapolis Colts. He won multiple executives of the year in the NFL. He got multiple teams to Super Bowls. He won a Super Bowl ring. He's part of what got Peyton Manning to the Colts. That's all well and good. Bill Polian retired 10 years ago. Bill Polian is now 80 years old. I don't have a problem with you bringing in Bill Polian per se. But this is exactly what they did 6 years ago, 7 years, 8 years ago, whatever it was, when they got rid of Lovie Smith, when they got rid of Jerry Angelo. They went to Ernie Accorsi and they said, Ernie, we don't know who to hire. Who should we hire to be our next general manager? Who should we hire to be our next head coach? And Ernie Accorsi said, I've got a great friend in John Fox. He just got fired by the Denver Broncos. He'd be a great head coach. You should bring in John Fox to be your head coach. And they gave him the golden parachute. John Fox was on his way out the door. He was 1 foot into retirement, and the Bears handed him a check and said, here's your golden parachute, John. Here's a chance to earn money for a few more years before you retire. This is the same thing. I understand that Bill Polian was a terrific general manager a decade ago. But this is Ernie Accorsi all over again. And even with that, George is still being involved. He's still, all right, you've brought in Bill Polian, but then if you trust Bill that much, then get out of his way. Let him be in control of who gets hired. George has the final say on who they're hiring at general manager. George has the final say of who they're hiring at head coach. And by the way, he did also say that they might hire the head coach before they hire the general manager, which is backwards because you're hiring the cashier before you've got the store manager. And then you're saying, well, the cashier's got to be, the cashier gets to pick his own manager for his department. That's not how that works. That's not how good organizations do things. You start at the top and then trust that the people that you hired at the top are qualified to do their jobs and let them hire the people. You don't bring them in and then micromanage them. But that's what George is going to do. He's going to micromanage. He's going to bring in his new Ernie Accorsi. He's going to bring in Bill Polian. But then he doesn't trust Bill Polian to make the decision. George has to be the one to make the final decision on both the head coach and the general manager. They came so close, so close. We've seen the other teams in this town. We've seen the Cubs do this. We've seen the White Sox do this. We have seen the Bulls are currently the talk in Chicago and one of the top teams in the NBA, in part because Jerry Reinsdorf realized he needed to get out of the way. He needed to get people in charge who knew what they were doing and let them do their job. So he brought in Arturas Karnisovas, and then he let Karnisovas bring in Mark Eversley, and he told them, guys, fix this. I will support you. I will help you if you need, but I trust you to do this. And right now the Bulls are the best team in the Eastern Conference, a year after not even making the playoffs in an expanded field and just a few years removed from being a laughingstock in the NBA because their head coach was a boob and didn't know a hoop from the hole in the ground. Now they're one of the best teams in the NBA because the owner realized he was part of the problem. George McCaskey and Ted Phillips don't realize that they are part of the problem. That they need to get out of the way, get football people involved, and trust the football people they bring in to do the job. I'm seeing some names pop up in the chat. Davidson is bringing up Ozzie Newsome. I'm not right now. I'm not really concerned with names at this point. I'll get there. I know I will in a few weeks. I will be hip deep in. They should bring in this guy. They should bring in that guy. They need to. Oh, this is the. Oh, what do you mean? You talk to that guy? That's so silly. That's so ridiculous. For right now, I'm still at the same place where I was a few weeks ago, where it was, I don't care if it's somebody with an offensive background, defensive background, special teams background, prior head coaching experience, no prior head coaching experience, whatever it might be. I want leaders. I want people who are going to be good leaders for the Bears and are going to be flexible to shift with with the environment happening in front of them, to have a plan in place, but realize that they might need to adjust the plan on the fly. That's still what I'm after. That's still what I want. I did see that the Vikings let go of their head coach and their general manager earlier today as well. So there's 2 general manager jobs open in the NFL right now, the Bears and the Vikings. I know Justice, our Packers host, is listening on Twitter Spaces. He's got to be grinning from ear to ear because, it's the rest of the NFC North is still in turmoil, and here his Packers are getting a bye week, and they're still doing Packers things. Don't worry, Justice. You're you guys are due. Don't worry. The Packers are due for some crazy years ahead. But the Bears have got to get leadership in there. And it starts at the top. And with ownership, it's got to start with recognizing that the way you have done things ever since 85, which really was still a result of Papa Bear more than anything the McCaskeys did. Oh, and there's a third general manager opening. David Crook's telling me Dave Gettleman stepped down from the New York Giants. Thank you, Davidson. I'm not surprised. I'm sure there was a handshake agreement there where it was, Dave, you're a made man in the NFL, but we really need to move on from you. We don't want to fire you, but can you come up with a reason you need to leave the organization? Boy, there's an organization that's just a mess right now, too. The New York Giants. So there's 3 general manager openings. There should be oceans of applicants to come be the general manager for the Bears. There should be oceans of talented people. They should be able to line them up all the way from Lakeshore Drive all the way up to Lake Forest and have capable applicants in that position to fill this spot, to fill this role with the club. But the McCaskeys have to realize that the way they've done things for the last 35 years hasn't worked. You're talking about an organization since Super Bowl 20 has only been to 1 Super Bowl, lost it, has only been to the playoffs a handful of times, hasn't won a playoff game in over a decade. Ownership is part of the problem. I'm not saying they need to sell the team because there's nothing that anybody as fans, or heck, even anybody in higher up than fans can do to influence them to sell the team. They're not going to sell the team. So that's silly. It's ridiculous. Don't bother. But they've got to be willing to bring in people that will tell them uncomfortable truths about their team and about their organization, and they've got to be willing to listen to it. Right now, they want to win, but they want to win by their terms and nobody else's. And their terms haven't worked. So I was so excited when the Pace news broke that they had released him and fired him and let him go, that it was maybe, just maybe, they finally got it. They finally figured out what all the other teams in town have figured out, that they've got to reorganize this and restructure this and reset this up. And they came right up to it. And then they stopped. That's so Bears. All right, we need to take a quick break. I'm just going to take the one break tonight because I know what else I've got on the show, and I know that if I take a second break, we're going to go way over time, and I don't want to do that to Taryn because Taryn's doing set point later tonight, talking things in the volleyball world, so I want to make sure that I give him all the time that he needs. So we're just going to take one quick break tonight, and then when we come back, we'll keep talking Bears, but then I also want to zoom out and look at the NFL as a whole. I predicted the entire NFL back in September. I don't know what the heck I was thinking. I crammed it into an hour. Crazy. I want to go back and revisit those real quick, and then we'll make some playoff predictions. And I have a suggestion to the NFL based on how that Chargers-Raiders game went last night and how absolutely bonkers crazy that was. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am Adam Kernick. We will be right back after this.
What is going on, everybody? This is Ben Metello, the host of the Yinza Report, right here on IE Sports Radio. I'm bringing you the latest in the Steel City, the City of Champions, from the Steelers, the Penguins, the Pirates, as well as the college game with both Penn State and Pitt. You could join me every Tuesday afternoon at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, where I'll be talking about everything from the Steel City, the City of Champions, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
College football, and do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college and the CCCAA and the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I A in the FBS. Well, then look no further. Join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza, each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Hey there, sports fans. Are you looking for a sports show that maybe isn't 100% about sports?
Then you might want to check out the Sports Couple Perspectives right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Most sports shows cover only scores and stats, and while we're not opposed to that, we dig a little deeper into sports issues and some of the hottest topics in athletics.
In addition to sports, we take a journey through my neck of the woods, pulp culture, with movie reviews of both sports and non-sports films.
Speaking of pop culture, make sure to participate in our game nights, where we quiz each other on our specialties, and you, the listeners, can win IE Sports Radio apparel.
We always have a great time learning more about each other's worlds, one show at a time.
So join us each week on the Sports Couple Perspectives, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am your host, Adam Karnick. Very happy and excited to be with you here on this Monday night, Black Monday in the NFL. Spent the first half of the show talking about how the Bears came so close to cleaning house and then backed off from the ledge and decided that, well, maybe just the living room and the kitchen needed cleaning. We'll get to the bedrooms some other time. I am just... They frustrate me. They make me mad. I am seeing breaking right now on ESPN. The Bears have requested permission to interview the offensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills, Brian Daboll, for their head coaching job. That's according to, of course, Adam Schefter, the man with all the knowledge there for ESPN and its football coverage. So speaking of the Bills, they are getting ready for the playoffs. I picked them to be in the playoffs. Yay, go me. You might remember back in September, right on the eve of the NFL season, I went through and picked the entire NFL, how every team was going to finish in every division. It was a crazy show. I somehow managed to get it in under an hour and a half. I went back and listened to it over this weekend, and I realized I didn't actually talk as quickly as I thought I did. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but, well, I'll let somebody else that knows more decide that for me, I guess. But I wanted to go back and kind of revisit that real quickly. I see Taryn chiming in the chat that Daboll would be great for Justin Fields and the Bears. I hope so. Right when his name started getting hot around league circles was also right when the Bills offense kind of lost a wheel, when its wagon lost a wheel and they started crashing and burning all the time and losing games left, right, and center. So we'll see. We'll see. I want somebody who's a good leader. And whether if Daboll's the guy for the job, if Daboll's the guy for the team, then great. Then that's who I want. I just don't want to wind up in this situation where every 4 or 5 years we're having to go through this carousel again. I mean, this next coach is going to be the 5th head coach of the Bears in the last decade, which is ridiculous and crazy and absurd and just not how good teams operate. All right, I'll go off for one more quick second, and then I want to get back on track. That's not to say that you should keep somebody who's not right for the job just for the sake of keeping somebody who's not right for the job. That's the problem they ran into with Ryan Pace. They kept him because they knew that, well, you don't want to move on from somebody just having to keep starting this vicious cycle over and over and over and over and over again. But at the same time, if you know somebody's wrong for the job, get him out of there. All right. I want to real quick do this review before I get out of here and turn the reins over to Taryn for Set Point. He's got, I know he always does. If you are at all a fan of volleyball, you need to stick around for Taryn's show. I promise you will learn something about that you didn't know about volleyball. Stick around right after us. Taryn is next with Set Point. He does an amazing job with it. Stick around. All right, so of the 32 teams in the NFL, I got 14 of them right. All right, it's a little under 50%. I got 2 entire divisions completely correct. I got the NFC North, go figure, and I got the AFC East completely right. I also completely botched 2 divisions. The NFC East, I got 100% wrong. I allowed myself to get talked into thinking that the Cowboys wouldn't win. I think it was just too obvious and easy of an answer. And I decided that I didn't want to go with the obvious, easy answer, so I went with Washington instead, and I blew the entire division. Excuse me, I needed to get a quick drink in there real quick. And then the other division that I got completely and totally wrong was the AFC North. I almost had it right in certain spots, but no, I really didn't come close with any of it. I had Cleveland winning the division. They finished 3rd. I had Cincinnati finishing last. The Bengals won the division. I had the Ravens finishing 2nd. The Ravens finished in 4th. And I had Pittsburgh finishing in 3rd. Pittsburgh finished in 2nd and made the playoffs. And then a couple other divisions, I only got 1 team right. I got, in the NFC West, I got the Rams winning the division. I got the rest of them wrong. And then the AFC West, I had the Chiefs winning the division. I got that right, but then I got everything else wrong there with the AFC West. In my defense, I had the Chargers in 2nd and I had the Chargers in 2nd, and I completely expected the Chargers to win that game last night, and then that weird thing that was that game last night happened and occurred, and the Raiders wound up finishing 2nd and making the playoffs, and the Chargers finished 3rd and missed the playoffs in the AFC West. Oh, Taryn might be talking some Illinois volleyball tonight. Illinois women's volleyball just hired a new assistant head coach, Krista Vansant. Let's say that again. Illinois women's volleyball just hired a new assistant coach, Krista Vansant. And according to Taryn, that is a huge hire. All right, well, I will learn about Krista Vansant here in a little bit. Of the 14 playoff teams, I did predict 9 of them. Again, I had 10, and then the Chargers went and got themselves out of the playoff picture last night. So I almost had 10. Instead, I wound up with 9. I know close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. But my preseason Super Bowl prediction is still alive. In fact, I believe all 4 of my final 4 is still alive. I had the Buffalo Bills, a recap, I had the Bills beating the Rams in the Super Bowl. That's still very much alive, very much a possibility. I had the Rams overtaking the Packers in the NFC, and I had the Bills overtaking the Chiefs in the AFC. Now, I did think that the Bills and the Rams were both going to be the number one seeds in their respective conferences. Neither of them are. Okay. But they're still in the playoffs. They're still there. So I'm still ultimately, I'm going to stick with the horse that I'm going to stick with the same teams to this point. I'm still going to go Bills Rams. But this is going to be a wild playoffs. I don't think there is a clear-cut favorite in either conference at this point. I think all 14 of these teams are flawed, have fatal flaws that could get them into trouble. It's going to 100% come down to and boil down to matchups. Is the bracket going to line up in such a way that you're able to avoid the team that can best exploit your fatal flaw? So to that end, let's go through the wild card round real quick. Raiders and Bengals to start things off. I'll take the Bengals to win their first playoff game in over 30 years over the Raiders. Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow have been an outstanding connection this season. I'm not sure that the Raiders defense will be able to stop them enough. I do worry about the offensive line of Cincinnati, though, holding up against that pass rush of Vegas. That could be very problematic for the Bengals. If the Raiders are going to win, that's how they're going to win, is they're going to just pressure Joe Burrow to death. I hope not literally. But Joe Burrow did get his ACL destroyed last season because his O-line couldn't hold up. The other AFC game on Saturday night, Patriots at Bills. That's going to be probably the game, certainly the game of the day on Saturday. They split in the regular season. Bill Belichick, you can never count him out in the playoffs. He's got a rookie quarterback in Mac Jones. I think they've got something there that they're going to be contenders for a while. I'm going to stick with the Bills, though. They were my preseason Super Bowl pick. I'm going to stick with the Bills in that wild card round. Then we get to Sunday's games, Eagles and Buccaneers. I actually got the opportunity to call their Thursday night game that they played earlier this season over on USRN. I had no idea that I was watching a playoff preview because, my God, the Buccaneers just destroyed Philly, and I can't imagine that that's going to change in any meaningful way going forward here for this game. So give me the Bucs to beat the Eagles on Sunday. Niners, Cowboys, that's going to be a fun one. I think the Niners could upset Dallas. I think Dallas struggles to stop the run. The Niners love to run the football. They don't trust Jimmy G at all with the football. So I think the Niners there could be a really good one. Steelers, Chiefs. The Chiefs should absolutely destroy the Steelers. Big Ben, his arm is going to fall off quite possibly during that game. Yes, TJ Watt is great at pressuring the quarterback. Yes, the Steelers are very strong defensively. This is a bad matchup for Pittsburgh. The Chiefs will be able to mitigate what the Steelers do well defensively, and the Steelers just will not have an answer for the Chiefs offensively. So I'll take the Chiefs in that one. And then finally on Monday night, Cardinals, we have a Monday night playoff game in the wild card round this year. Cardinals at Rams. I'm going to stick with the Rams. They were my preseason pick out of the NFC. I'm going to stick with them. So Rams over the Cardinals. That would work things out to, at that point, then in the divisional round, let's see, you would have the Titans taking on, I want to make sure that I get the seeds right here. You would have the Titans, I believe, would be taking on the Bengals. Yeah, Mike Vrabel's a good enough head coach. He'll be able to figure out how to stop Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. And then Bills at Chiefs. I predicted them to beat them there in the preseason. I'm going to stick with them there. Bills over the Chiefs. I thought that game would be in Buffalo, not in Kansas City, not in Arrowhead, but I'll take the Bills there to pull off the upset there in that one. And then over in the NFC, what you'd be looking at then would be the Niners at the Packers. We'll go with the Packers there. Aaron Rodgers will be able to put up enough points that the Niners just simply won't be able to keep up. And then you'll have Rams at Buccaneers. The Rams will just be able to do just enough in that game to beat Tom Brady. Rams go into Lambeau Field, upset the Packers in the NFC title game. Bills will take care of business against the Titans in the AFC title game, and we wind up with a Bills-Rams Super Bowl. I'm going to stick. It's what I picked in the preseason. I'm going to stick with it for now. Why not? And again, after the Super Bowl, we'll come back and we'll laugh as I got more things wrong, I'm sure, but hopefully I get a few of them right. All right, one more quick thought, and then before we get out of here, we turn things over to Taryn. So the game last night between the Raiders and the Chargers, there was talk and word coming out that, of course, there was the possibility that it could be viable that the Raiders and Chargers could play to a tie and have it make sense. And sure enough, lo and behold, that scenario played itself out. It was an outstanding game. It was a fantastically played game. The Raiders ultimately won and eliminated the Chargers. But you could make the case, you could make the argument, and I'm not sure you'd be wrong in making the argument that the Raiders should have simply played for a tie instead of kicking that field goal to win as time expired in overtime. The NFL has to address this. We should not be we should never wind up in a scenario where teams should be playing for a tie. A tie should never be something that you want to achieve or want to have happen in your game. I think this offseason they have to address the fact that a tie is still something that can happen in the NFL, and they need to end the rule. There's a couple simple, easy ways to do it. One option would be and they both involve field goals. They both involve the kickers, because ultimately you don't want to just keep playing the game over and over and over, because that's how people get hurt. So both options involve kickers. The first option is you'd set up a field goal kicking contest, similar to a shootout or a shootout in hockey or penalty kicks in soccer, where you start them at a yard line, pick whichever yard line you want. Team A kicks, Team B kicks. They both make it, you move them back 5 yards and repeat until one kicker makes it and the other kicker misses it. And if they both miss, then you move them forward 5 yards and you do it again. That's option number one. Option number two is one that Russell Wilson threw out there earlier this season while he was part of the Manning cast on Monday Night Football, and I really liked it. You have one kick, a winner-go-home kick. You have a fresh coin toss. The team that wins the toss gets to decide how long the kick is and from what end. The other team that didn't win the coin toss gets to decide who's kicking it. If the kicking team makes the kick, they win the game. If they miss the kick, they lose the game. Nice and simple and easy. But it's 2022. We should no longer be at a point where a tie is a viable thing that you want teams shooting for and be a viable strategy come end of game. And setting up something at the end of overtime isn't so big and drastic that, oh my gosh, we're going to see this a million times and it's really going to change the outcome of games. We had one game in a tie this year. We had, you at most, you're going to encounter this 2, maybe 3 times a season. It's a simple enough thing to fix. Fix it so that ties cannot happen in the NFL any longer. All right. That is all the time we have for tonight. I want to say thank you to everybody for listening and Spreaker and on Twitter Spaces tonight. I see a couple people in there in the Twitter Spaces. Thank you guys for listening there. Thank you guys for hanging out in the chat room with me tonight. I saw Taryn, Davidson, and we had some other people. My mom jumped into the chat room there for a little bit. Marcus was in there. Thank you guys for hanging out in the chat. Thank you again to our sponsors, the Southern California Warriors and Background Check International, for continuing to support us there. Again, please, if you are able, support us on Patreon. We really would appreciate it. Just like at Bay Area Rays, just like at MLO's Great, we really do appreciate your help, and it would help us keep going there. Oh, I see Mike Pat chimed in right at the last second. Yep, Mike, yeah, you made it just in time for the end. Thank you to Larry for everything that he does to continue to keep IE Sports rolling. I really do appreciate it. All the hard work that you do, getting all these great shows and guests and great hosts lined up. Really do appreciate it there. Coming up next is going to be Taryn Rodriguez on Set Point, talking all things volleyball. He's got some Illinois volleyball news already lined up, so be sure stick around and listen to what Taryn's got going on in the wide world of volleyball. As for me, next week, we're going to take a little bit of a break from football, maybe. We'll see. We'll see what more silliness the Bears do here in the next week. And then after that, we're gonna talk about the Bulls a bit. We're gonna get some more into the Chicago Bulls. Oh, did want to throw one more last thing out there. The Blackhawks went into Vegas. Marc-Andre Fleury got a win in his return to Las Vegas. Congratulations to Marc-Andre Fleury there. Zach Pupples and I will be talking more about that tomorrow night on the Neutral Zone. 9 o'clock in the East, 8 o'clock Central, right here on IE Sports Radio. Until next week, everybody stay safe, stay healthy. We will talk to you then. Have a good night.